everybody. This is Kathy from Crowder's Mountain, and this is Barn Quilts by Mountain Visions. Now today's video, I hope, will be just simple, short, and you may not want to stick around to the end, but I wanted to show you guys some of the things that I use. Now, I have shown these things before in different videos, but I thought, you know, I need to make one video that has most of my tools in it, so that when people say, what is it that you use to draw your pattern on your board, I can just refer to this video. And you could see different things in it. So first off, now you know when I'm drawing a barn quilt pattern for you guys, I just use paper. It's just the flip chart paper that I use. And so I just cut it to size, and then I can draw the pattern for you guys. But most of the time, you're just going to be drawing on your board. But when I'm drawing the pattern for you all, I just use these Sharpies so that you can see the different pattern sections better. And I think I've told y'all that before. But anyway, I wanted to just bring that up right quick. And as far as, I'm just going to start showing you some of the things. Now, I use a yardstick, and what I do with it. My favorite one is this metal. It's real flat, and I can really see where I'm getting to my edges at. When I'm drawing my pattern, I can really get down to right on the corners, and now that makes a big difference. And then I've got this 24-inch one that, this is about the third one that, or second one that I bought. The first one, somebody in a class, Pam, gave it to me. She found it at Hobby Lobby, and I had been wanting one that was clear, so you can see where you're angling at and where you're drawing at. It's just a lot more helpful to have it clear. And then I've got clear 1 foot, and then I also have a 6-inch ruler or two. But that's just some of the measuring instruments that I use. And also for circles, I use 2 or 3 different things. Now this one is the rotate tape compass. Anyway, you stick your pen here, and this comes out like this, and then you can draw your circle. No, here. You draw your circle that way. But that's kind of handy to have. And then I have this demonstration compass, and you can find it on Amazon. And so most of the things that I've bought has been Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and Amazon. And Sherwin-Williams. I swear I get the tape at when it's on sale. But anyway, to draw the circle, I use this demonstration compass, and it's made with a little suction cup on it, and I just tore that off. And then I have this Pacific arc that I love doing with like Love's Blossoms or some of the point-based barn quilts. This is really helpful. Now, mine's 12 inches, and I haven't found another 12-inch since then. But mine is 12. I even looked back to where I purchased it, and it was 12 inches. So but the rest of them are like 10 and 9. And if I ever find another 12, I'll let y'all know. That's how I draw the circles. But my writing instruments, my writing instruments, I love using heat erasable pens. And this brand Jinuppion. Junipon. That's my favorite so far. Now, I don't use the white, but now I have been using Ibati, and I just swear by it. I love it. But let me tell you, these last 5 times as long. You don't get any kind of refill with it though. So probably ends up being the same thing. But I like the rounded roller ball tip instead of real pointy. That real pointy sharp tip will dig down into your wood. And then to get rid of that, heat tool. I use this heat tool. It only gets about 300 watts. And so it's not like a hairdryer's fine if that's what you use. Just keep it away from the paint or it'll blister it, especially if you got it on there too thick. But this little heat gun is kind of like an embossing tool if you ever do any of that. That's what that is. But if you don't have that, and you just air dry your paint, then you can always use just water. Just water and I don't know that I would use this paper towel, but I've got, actually it's a burping cloth. You know, we got 10 grandkids, so you have things. And I use this with a little bit of water, especially if when I'm drawing it on the board and I goof up and didn't measure it out right, I just take that wet paper towel, a wet cloth, and I just erase the whole thing. Or I just erase a section, or something like that. But it just comes off real easy. And when you draw your pattern on the board and you're trying to get rid of your lines, just that soft, damp cloth will do that fine. Or that heat erasable heat tool. I don't know why. These are heat erasable pens, and I keep saying the wrong thing. Sorry. But anyway, that's what I use. And then sometime I have forgotten to get rid of my lines. You know, like, okay, you got the pattern in your head and you're just painting all along. And forgot to get rid of the lines. Well, the paint's wet. So it just really dissipates the pen marks because they're water soluble. So the wet paint just gets rid of them. So it's not a big deal if you forget to get rid of it. And there's not enough paint there to, what's the word I'm trying to use? To contaminate the paint and make it not adhere to your board well. There's not enough of anything there to do that with, so don't worry about that. Now, just a few other things that I have here that I wanted to show you. I've got a couple of these little paint brush holders. When I'm painting like that, I could just put them here. But guess what I saw? Yeah, I'm gonna date myself. Back when people smoked a lot and they had ashtrays everywhere, those round ashtrays, it's got the little dip in it where you put your cigarette at. That's perfect paint trays. Well, paint brush trays. And so I'm thinking next time I'm around in the thrift store or like a antique store or something, I'm going to see if I can find some of them just to have here. But I've got 2 of these and they work fine. So not in any hurry, but that's just a tip if you're around and you see any of them. And so for the paint brushes themselves, I just kind of wanted to show you a couple of these. Now, here's my favorite kind. They're just craft brushes. These are folk art. And I like them. They're soft bristle. I can't use the big, what kind of brush is that people use a lot? Let me see if I can find one. Here it is, that Purdy brush. You see how long that handle is? This is like 1.5 inch, and I guess if you were painting a really big one, it might be different. You might have to go to something like this, but I don't know. That's just, the handle's just too long, and I'm not comfortable with it for my 2x2s or the 3x3. And I painted 4x4, but I used a bigger brush like that 1 inch wide. So, but anyway, these are good brushes. Don't discount them if that's what you like. And I know a lot of people use them. But I want to show you my all-time favorite brush is the plaid brushes. You can tell they're my favorite because I've wore out. I'm not good at cleaning my brushes like I need to. I put them in water. Like I'll have 2 of these sitting there, and I'll have one with a little soap and one to rinse. And I rinse them out like that. And I also have one of those little things in there at the bottom. A lot of times the brush scrubber in the bottom. And that gets it pretty good, but it's not like using something like, let me show you that too. All right, this one, I'll just hold it up so you can see it. There you go. That's just a bar of brush soap. And then some folks say they use acetone. It's pure acetone. And so that, you could see I haven't opened either one of these. I'm going to try it and I'll let you know how it works. But that's what I have heard folks say that they use. But plaid is my favorite. Now, to get into the little nooks and crannies, let me bring this one over here and show you. Okay. All right. See how if you have to get right in here, then sometimes I'll use this little brush to dab it in there. And then, but most of the time I like to find a flat tip, just a real tiny flat tip. See that? And just go along the edges wherever I need to touch up at. And by the way, this one's going to be next. And I'm going to show you how I draw these lines too. This is my next video. And also, I know I'm probably skipping around a lot, just trying to remember what I wanted to tell y'all. When you're painting a large section, like you've got the pattern here and you've got a lot of area around the center of your barn quilt that's all one color, I like using these small rollers. And you can get them in the craft section of art supply store. And you know, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on them. But I put them in something plastic, and they last for a long time. I've got 3 or 4 down there, like white. I've got a black one, a blue one, just whatever I've used lately to paint backgrounds. But there's no use of spending a lot of money on those, because the cheap craft ones work. And another thing, like when you're painting your barn quilt and a little bit too much gets off into the next section, I found these little, now somebody told me about them, and I can't remember, or I would tell you, but they're just little sanding sticks. And so they last a long time because you just break off what you used and use the next section. But you could just just barely sand that a little bit, and you don't have like a hump in there, or like a big paint bump. But if you're gonna hang it on the barn 50 miles away, you don't care. Leave it there. But if you're gonna hang it on your porch or somewhere people can see it, you gotta want it to look good and not have that little, you can paint over it, but you're gonna have that little hump there. It's not gonna be smooth. You can use that just in that little section just to get rid of it. And then just paint. Now, when you're painting, I want to show you this. When you're painting, I always use these little paint trays. Well, I did for years. And I thought, if I put them in the sink and I put soap in them, but you have to scrub these little old babies to get them clean. And I thought, there's got to be something different. And y'all gonna kill me, but I found some plastic that I can just put my paint in there, and when I get through with it, I know I've got all my touch-ups done. I'm satisfied with the barn quilt. There's not anything that needs to be done to it. I can toss this in the trash. And there's not that much paint in it time I get through with it. But I found these little egg cartons. They're plastic egg cartons, and there's 6, it's like a half a dozen eggs. But the thing is, most of the time when you're painting one, you probably have 4, 5, 6 colors. Now, I did one, I just finished one up that I probably had 8, 9 colors on it, so I had to use more than one. But the thing of it is, like these little rollers here, what to do with them? These little rollers, you put your paint in here and you're doing your background. There's where you put your paint to put your little roller in. See, that fits right in there. And you could just do your background. So you got that place too in that one. Where in these, if you're going to roll it, you got to find something else to put the paint in for the roller. But this is kind of an all-in-one thing. Anyway, Amazon. I put plastic egg cartons, what I put in, and I kept going till I found these. And good grief, they were like 400 of them or 300 of them. I think they end up being like $1/4 a piece. And to me, that's better than scrubbing these out. But I love them now, but this is so much better. And I can take my Sharpie. Like if you've got 2 or 3 colors of one paint, 2 or 3 shades of one paint, I can take my Sharpie and write like, like pure white. I could put a PW or something there, and I can mark what colors I'm using, or I can actually put them on this up here. Now the only thing about them, they're kind of hard to get closed up. If you get it just right, you can pop them together, but that's kind of hard. But if I walk away from it and say, okay, I'm done, I can't do no more today, I got other things to do, then I got a plastic bag and I stick them in there and then just close it up. And the next day or 2 days, it's still just fine because it's airtight. Anyway, and then I put my paintbrushes or something in a baggie. And they last, they're fine like that. I have shown you this before. I put my paint in these Lolivefe bottles. And it's LOLIVEFE.com. Lolivefe. LOLIVEFE. I'll put it in the description. If you use code Kathy with the C, 10, then you get 10% off your order. And sometimes they have some really good sales on these bottles. So I have 2 sizes, and this one, if I mix up a big batch, like if you're doing a big quilt and you think, I just need a little bit lighter blue, but you don't have that in your inventory, and you just put a little white in it, but you need a lot, then you could put them in these bottles. And that's what I use these for. I don't use them that much, but they've got that size, and then here's the big size that, like I showed you a minute ago, if I use water, I've got just plain water in that one. And when you're painting, and say you've realized you've got a paint splatter on something and you see it before it dries, I use just a baby wipe to get that off, and it works fine. But that's handy to have, handy to keep around when you're painting, or just a damp cloth, either one, but that baby wipes work good. Now, choosing the colors that you use, I can't even pretend to be a colorist. I am not. I see what I like. I get inspiration from other artists, and I choose my colors like that. But I have a couple of little books here that I got that just kind of shows you some of the paint that goes together. I'm not so sure that that's very helpful, to tell you the truth. If you know color and color theory and that kind of thing, you probably could really use this. Now, I like this one. It just has all kind of color schemes in it, themes, like pretty and pink, and then that one's called Fresh Air. And if you'll think about your paint that you've already got, you can kind of mix up enough to make a quilt in that, instead of going out and buying all 4 of these colors. But I like this one. It was simple. This one was simple to me. I see one on Facebook. Y'all probably have seen it too. It's a box of color themes, and I've been thinking about ordering that, but I'm not sure. The shipping was almost as much as the box cost, so I'm just, I had to think that one over. Okay, now. Another thing when I'm painting is cutting this tape. All right, here I like using that yellow frog tape. Now, use the purple kind too, the Delicate Surface Scott brand. I've used that too, and I started using frog tape, and I love it. The only thing about that, let me show you. Is if you are painting yellow on your barn quilt, well, that's a tough thing to see when you're painting yellow. So I break out the Scotch Delicate Surface. I always keep that on hand. And a lot of times, say I don't have any of the 1/4 or the 1/2 inch or the 1 inch. So I'll just use this and just split it in half and use it like that. I'll just anchor it onto something and cut it. And the other, let me show you the tape first to get through with that. I do have this 1/4 inch tape that I like using, and then I have the 1/8 inch tape, and I'll show you how I use that when I do that next video, but with the Native American cross, because you have lines that you paint, and so I'll show you how I use that too. And I've shown you that in some other videos. That's how I tape up my circles too. But most of the time I cut my tape with these little mini paint scrapers. They're just wonderful, and you change the blade when it gets dull. You just change the blade, and they're just real simple to use. But I also found these that's a little wider, so if you're making a bigger barn quilt and the tape is wider than these little scrapers, this thing comes in handy. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I told you I got this in Pigeon Forge in a work, it was like some kind of a tool place. We were just wandering around, went in there, and I found 3 of them. That's all they had, so I bought all of them. And people do use the paint scraper like that to rip their paint tape too if it gets too wide. So you could use that. And you know, of course I use cards when I'm burnishing down my tape to my board. I use just some kind of card. Like this one is a vinyl applicator that I got. I don't know what I bought that came with it, and I never throw away nothing, so I had it and I kept using it. And now for those, you know, I was showing you these little flat tip paintbrushes to get into some of the delicate places, little small places. Well, I also use a pencil. You know, you can dab it down in your paint and just stick it into that little corner, and you can get it like that. Here's little skewers. It's like giant toothpicks that you can use the point there. And then here's these little things. I don't even know what you call them. It looks like a little tiny Q-tip on the end. I can't remember what the real name is, but I use that too. Especially on a circle. If you need to do some touching up on a circle, this is my go-to, because it just glides along really, really well on that circle. And what else I want to show you? Well, if you're drawing a pattern, if you're playing with it and drawing a pattern, unless you're using a computer program, you could use just graph paper. Now, I do that a lot, just use plain graph paper, but I wanted to show you that. And I've got, for my bottles that I like labeling, I just have a label maker that I use for that. And it came with all kind of different tape, and that's why all my bottles have some blue tape, some green tape, white tape, clear tape. Whatever was in that box, that's what I used. I didn't want to spend extra money to just have it all uniform. Even though I'm probably that OCD, I would like to have them all the same color up there, but they're not. And I've shown you guys how I prep my board. But people ask this a lot, what you use for the sides of it, especially if you've got little holes in that MDO. And I use this Dynaflex. It dries real clear, and it's paintable, and it's the exterior. So it's just window, door, side, and trim's what it is, but it works really good on those edges. And I think that's all. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you've got other things that you use that you found helpful, let me know, and I'll pass it along. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And at the end of this one, I'll put a couple of previous video links there for some springtime barn quilts, because I know I'm not doing enough videos to keep up with everybody. So anyway, see you in the next video, and I'll be doing that Native American cross. Talk to you later.